There was abuse, many types of abuse, because I never saw my other siblings get spanked as hard as I did. The last one is gifts, the umbrella of all the love languages.
Welcome to Inspired by Success, the podcast where I deep dive into the mindset of successful entrepreneurs, CEOs, and thought leaders. Get ready to be inspired and gain valuable insights to unlock your true potential. Today, I'm excited to introduce our special guest today. His journey from various roles like speaking, writing, teaching, and serving as a veteran to diving into entrepreneurship truly reflects his dedication to success. He's passionate about helping others succeed and has some fantastic advice for those starting out on their own ventures. His name is Paul Zolman, and he's the founder of Roll of Love, an international best-selling author who has walked the path of transformation and resilience. From a childhood filled with challenges to building a groundbreaking system that encourages love and understanding, Paul's unique journey shows us the power of personal growth and overcoming adversity. So without further ado, welcome to the show, Paul.
Thank you, Linda. It's a pleasure to be with you today. So excited for this.
Awesome. Take me back to your life and your childhood and where it all began and how it shaped the man you are today.
Thank you, Linda. That's really a good question. Unfortunately, my life didn't start out great. I grew up in an angry family. What I mean by angry family, there was abuse, many types of abuse, physical, emotional, social, sexual, all sorts of abuses within the family. What that looked like for me is that really there didn't seem like there were any boundaries. I was really wanted to keep the rules because I did not want the physical abuse. I did not want to be hit with the belt or spanked severely as I had been in the past. And so I tried to keep the rules. I was thorn between two roses. I've got an older sister and a younger sister, and then many older brothers. I'm number 10 of 11 children, Linda. And
Wow.
So in that family, that large family, if you were the last to get the food at the table as we passed it around family style, you may not have much left. It was a really difficult time growing up that way. And with that angry atmosphere, I wanted to leave quickly. I left after my junior year of high school. So one more year before I would graduate from high school. I left home, went to live with my brother, and I realized my brother had some residual anger left over as well, but he was really trying to be a really good father, a really good parent to his two children that he had at the time. And in that atmosphere, I tried to also learn how to love, and he was really trying hard to learn that way. But I found out I had kind of the same thing that my father had. What that was that my father would be annoyed, stack all these annoyances on top of one another, and then he'd have this flash of anger. And it happened mostly after he had visited with my mother. He was a truck driver, was gone throughout the week, but would return home every Friday night. Every Friday, I love this about my father, that every Friday he dated my mother. He wasn't very creative about it. It was always the Maverick Bar, always over alcohol. And I can imagine, I was never there, but I can imagine my father saying, how was your week? How was your week? My mother disclosing, probably starting at the very oldest child and disclosing, well, this person did this, and all the way down. By the time that my mother gets down to number 10, me, my father's enraged. He's ready to blow because he's been annoyed, stacking it, and I felt like I got the brunt of all of it. And so I'm sure that's not exactly how it happened, but that was my perception at the time. It still is my perception because I never saw my other siblings get spanked as hard as I did or get spanked at all for that matter. It was mostly just me. I don't think I was a bad kid, and I wanted to obey the rules. In fact, when I was 17 years old, I took one of those career interest tests, and it said that I would be a great Internal Revenue Service officer for IRS, collecting the taxes. I know those people were hated really bad by business people. I didn't want that. I'm already hated. I'm already being punished. I don't want that. But I liked the idea of keeping the rules because I wanted to keep the rules. I wanted to be a good boy and keep the rules and do that sort of thing. So I went into accounting. It took me 22 years to get a college degree. My father just graduated from 8th grade. So there's not much education that way. So I was one of the first in my whole family to actually get a college degree. So I got a college degree in accounting, no less. With that accounting degree, I was able to become a chief financial officer, or CFO of a public company. So I understand what your clientele, what your audience is trying to understand. They're trying to get a better handle on how to be a good leader. And so in my past, some of the leaders that I've seen were really very loving. And I wanted to be that kind of loving leader and be kind to the employees so that they'd stay around. If you get a good employee and you have a good relationship, they're going to stick around. And all employers want that employee retention. So I wanted to do that in all the businesses that I started, and even that business I was the CFO of. But I still had the same problem as my father, stacking those annoyances until you had this flash. Sometimes it would happen in public, which was very embarrassing, awkward. And then most of the time it happened in private. So it happened in private probably too much, because after 23 and a half years, my wife and I split, and I found myself all alone, Linda. So at that time, I had this little midlife crisis that what I was going to do is I was going to go online, find someone to date, pick a city, and then go to that city, have a date, and go back home. I called it destination dating. So for a year and a half, I had this fun time traveling all over the place, all over the United States and then into Mexico for this destination dating. And I felt like the lyrics of that song, I was looking for love in all the wrong places. And I really needed to look at myself, improve myself so that I'd be more marketable. That's really would have been a better choice. It came to a head about 15 years ago while I'm single. I became serious with a person that I'd met, and it was time for Big Brother approval. Remember, I'm number 10 of 11. I always had to have Big Brother approval. In fact, way back in the day, I was the human remote control for the TV. That my older siblings would tell me to go up to the TV, turn the knob, and change the channel. And so I was a human remote control. I had to do what they said, Linda. It was just that kind of atmosphere, and that's kind of how I grew up. So we went up for Big Brother approval. I take this woman inside. My sister-in-law pulls her aside immediately and says, the only emotion that the Zolman family learned growing up was anger. At first I denied it, said, then it made me mad.
It made you mad?
I thought, it made me mad. So I thought, I verified just exactly what she said. I just accentuated the point. I had that aha moment that if that's the perception that outsiders like my sister-in-law had of the Zolman family, I had an opportunity right there and now to change that perception. So I started reading the color code and the 5 love languages. And I really liked the principles of the 5 love languages by Dr. Gary Chapman. I didn't get it, though. I didn't get the application. You mean, Dr. Chapman, if I guess what Linda's love language is and cater to that, we're going to be buddies? I'm a really bad guesser. It doesn't work for me like that. And it hasn't worked my whole life like that. So that didn't work for me. And then the second thing that Dr. Chapman has is, well, if you take this survey, then you can find out what your love language is. Well, Dr. Chapman, what am I supposed to do with that? Advertise? Hello, Linda. I'm gifts. What do you have for me today? That's too awkward. And I'd already been doing awkward my whole life. In awkward situations, I'm done with awkward. I don't want awkward. So I had an idea that as dysfunctional as our family was growing up, we played games. And when we played games, it brought our family together. There was still the smack talk. There were still the put downs. There was still the aggressive competition. But we were together, and it kind of helped me learn new things while I'm playing a game. So I contacted Dr. Chapman. I said, Dr. Chapman, are you licensing those little icons or the pictures that you have for each one of the love languages? And his attorney wrote back and said, no, I'm not doing that. So I took this idea that I had to my personal attorney, that is a copyright attorney, intellectual property attorney. He said this: theory, like the love languages, is not copyrightable. Application is. So they weren't doing it as a game. So I really kind of was able to create my own icons and make it into a game. So that's what I did. And that's the business that I created. This is the game. All it is a cube. And on each side of the cube, I put an icon that represents one of the love languages. So there's 5 love languages. This side represents time. It's a hand holding an hourglass.
Mm-hmm. Yep. Explain each one, because for those who I haven't read the book, I've got the book, The 5 Love Languages. I still haven't read the book. So for the audiences, explain each love language as a beginner.
So time would be just setting your phone aside, just being present when you're talking with someone. Spending time doesn't mean that you're even talking with them. My wife loves it when we watch Korean dramas together. That's her favorite thing to do right now. She loves the Korean dramas. They're so cute and so wholesome. I mean, they don't even kiss like until the 9th or the 10th episode. Really, it's like set your clock back to 1950. It's really very, very cute. It's fun. Anyway, that's spending time together, and she really likes that. This one is service. It looks like a waiter holding a plate, so that would represent service. All these are pictures. There's no words on the cube at all. They like people that like service would like their car washed, their car gassed up. They like the carpet vacuumed. Yeah, they like the trash taken out. They like help with the laundry, fold the laundry. They like the yard kept nice. They like to be served in that way. Those people really light up when service is done for them. The next one is two hands pushed together, creating a heart, and then there's a little conversation fly out from that heart. This would be the words from the heart. So this would be the I love you, this would be the compliments, this would be anything like that, or it could be a note. Anything like that that people would light up when you say the words, or you give them attention and put it in writing. They absolutely love that. Next icon is two hands, looks like they're holding hands together, and that would be touch. For that, you can do the high five, the fist bump, pat on the back, obviously above the waist. You can go do the hugs for those that would be appropriate for, but that's the touch. People just really like the touch. I had one attorney here in town that when I showed him the die, he says, I want a die that only has that on all six sides. And I said, I just have to laugh because he wants to give it away and he wants it to come back his way. That's that. The last one would be gifts. So it's a hand holding a gift. Gift is kind of what I like to call the umbrella of all the love languages. You could give a hug as a gift. You could spend time with someone as a gift. You could serve someone dinner as a gift, or you could send them a note as a gift, or it could be a purchased gift. It doesn't have to be though, but it could be any one of all the love languages. The last side of the cube is a hand holding a question mark. I call that side of the cube surprise me. I live just 2 hours north of Las Vegas. A lot of people call it dealer's choice, or for whatever it is, you're watching for opportunities to love anybody in any one of the love languages. So it's just, you can choose, or you can just do random acts of kindness all day long. So Linda, there's just 2 instructions for the cube. You roll the cube every day. Whatever it lands on, that's what you practice giving away all day that day. So in this journey I've had, Linda, I realized that the boundaries, I can't bid love to come my way. But what I do have control over is giving it away and responding when it comes my way. So for this exercise, all we're doing is giving it away and then watching that when it comes our way, we'll know how to respond appropriately. The nice thing about doing this is that it randomizes the love languages every single day. Thankfully, Linda, you don't have to eat tacos every night for the rest of your life. When you take that survey and you put into that box that that's the love language that you like, and that's the only one you like, that might be the only meal you get. This isn't like that. You're going to get a flavor of each one of the love languages. The variety is really the spice of life. Over a 30-day period, you will have given away all 5 love languages so that you know them backwards and forwards. Best part about that, it improves your peripheral vision so you can see it when it comes your way and respond appropriately.
Beautiful. Let's just unpack it a bit before. Has this helped you with healing yourself as well? You know how you mentioned there's a lot of annoyances stacked up, because I can understand, I can relate to that too. It's, I guess, understanding boundaries and I think being authentic to yourself and speaking out and whatnot too. But it sounds like you've needed to have a bit of a healing journey. Have you had the chance to do that? And has that helped you creating the role of love? Has that helped you with your healing journey as well?
People that are from that angry culture normally don't have boundaries. So the boundary I had was that I realized where my annoyances were coming from. It was from other people. It wasn't me, hardly ever me. Well, I take that back. There was one time that I was so annoyed, Linda, with myself, I didn't talk to myself for 3 days.
You didn't talk to yourself? I don't get it.
It's a joke. Yeah, so how can you not talk to yourself? So anyway.
Basically how you react to other people. Is that what you're trying to say? Because you're taking, you're annoying. I was saying, what's wrong with that person? Why are they doing that? And I'd say it out loud to that person when in fact, it's none of my business. That was their choice. That's what they're doing. If they ask me for advice, I realized I can give them advice. But if I just blurt out the advice on
wanted advice, usually it doesn't go so well. And so I had to draw that boundary line that I didn't know before, draw that boundary that that's their business, stay out of their business. Focus on what's in my lane. What is in my lane and what's in my power is to give love away and respond. That's all. And once I stayed in my lane, I realized that I'm now watching for what's right about that person. What can I love about that person? So instead of focusing on 10% or 20% faults or mistakes or weaknesses of another person, now I'm focusing on the 80 to 90% of their strengths. I'm pinpointing that, expressing it in a lot of different ways, and focusing on that, it actually enlarges that. I like to compare it to a magnifying glass, that whatever you magnify is going to get larger. Who wants the mistakes or the faults of another person to get larger? And if you magnify it for them, guess what's going to happen right back to you? It's coming back and they're looking at you. They're putting that magnifying glass over you, scrutinizing all your errors and all your mistakes. So I had to change that around. And so I became so busy and so focused on what's right about people, what can I love about them, that I forgot to be annoyed. And the second part about that was very healing for me because I started doing that also with my parents. I did it in a different way. When I was 19 years old, I went to Japan for a couple of years. And in Japan, I decided I'm going to write my parents once a week. Back in the time, it was all snail mail. It was all handwritten letters and send it through the mail. And so they got it on a certain day every week. I'd write it the same day every week, and they'd receive it on a different day every week back in the States. By doing that for 2 years, I really kind of got in the habit of doing that. And at the end of 2 years, I thought, you know what? This is really a good habit. So when I came back to the States, I kept that up for 32 years until both of my parents had passed away. And I realized that I was writing these letters more as a gratitude for them, a great way to keep that fifth of the 10 commandments to honor your father and your mother. And I really wanted to do that, and I couldn't figure out how am I going to do that? For all the abuse and everything that I shouldered in my childhood, how could I honor those parents? And the best way was to point out the good things. And so over a 32-year period, I realized what was good about them and that they tried their best. And they had hard things passed down to them. They had a harder childhood than I had, but they passed down something that was hard for me and were trying to improve and trying to do things that are more loving. It was much harder for them than it was for me in their childhoods. And so realizing that brought me healing as well.
That's beautiful. And so that also would have helped you with a lot of changing your perspective. And how are you now with any anger issues and annoyances that you're totally different? Do you still get a lot of anger occasionally, or is it just a long time healing work?
Yeah, no, I'm too busy, actually still too busy. I still roll the die every day. I had the Cube copyright in 2017, and I still roll it every single day. I carry one with me in my pocket in case I forget at the beginning of the day to roll it. I carry it with me for conversation piece as much as I do for showing people that I really care about the good parts of them, about what is appropriate for them. And most people, Linda, are intrinsically good. When I was focused on the 10 or 20%, I missed 80 or 90% of the good. I just had blinders on, could not see it for what I saw that was bad. It's like if you purchase a new vehicle and you drive it down the road like you hadn't seen this as many vehicles as you had of this type. Now you see them all over the place. It's like your eyes are opened. That's what it was like for me. Earth, so many good people doing so many good things. People just have bad habits. It's not that you're trying to sweep it under the carpet, but you're trying to focus on the good, magnify that so that'll grow larger and hopefully crowd out any of the bad behavior or the bad habits that they might have. That has really been healing for me as well. And I think that that's something that you can do in corporate America as well. You're wanting to be that type of leader that is very kind to your employees, especially those other managers that might be under you. You want to be kind to them so that they'll be kind to the people that are under them and let it go down the organizational chart in that way. I found that the very best mentors and very best managers were the ones that were very kind. I remember them. I remember their names. I remember the kindnesses that they did. That's how you really want to be remembered from any position. People don't quit jobs. they quit people. They'll
Yeah.
quit a situation that they don't feel comfortable with, a situation that people are unkind to them. They'll quit people. They won't quit the job.
That's beautiful. And I was touching on a question that I was going to ask as well, because I was going to ask, how does your approach to fostering love and understanding in relationships relate to a successful business? And you've just explained it beautifully as well. So thank you for that. Let's talk about your current journey and what inspired you to transition from your previous roles to focus on your current role now, doing the dice and working for yourself. What was that shift?
Well, the shift was just at age 35. I decided, you know what? I'm responsible for my own actions. Up until that time, I was blaming my father. It's his fault. I'm the way I am because of him. Age 35. The worst part about that, Linda, is that he'd been dead for 7 years. I didn't have any chance to talk it over with him. I didn't have any chance to sort things out. I guess I could have called the medium up, someone that could speak with those guys, but I didn't think of that. I realized that this is ludicrous. Why am I blaming him when really I'm in charge? I'm in charge of my own life. And for a person that's number 10 of 11 children, where all the older siblings were in charge of your life, and you really didn't have charge, I'm a late bloomer. It took me a long time to realize, oh, I'm in charge of my own life now. And so at 35, I stopped blaming, and that really was one paradigm shift. The second one was, as I explained, when I went into my brother and sister-in-law's place and found out I was still on the angry side of the spectrum. What's really been so helpful, Linda, in this is to kind of self-actualize, figure out what is a descriptive word for what I'm doing right now. And if the descriptive word, say for example, I was being sarcastic, if that's the descriptive word or the adjective describing my behavior right now, what would be the opposite of that behavior? And as I consider sarcasm, being sarcastic, the opposite to me would be genuine, authentic, somebody that's true. And when I weigh the two attributes, do I want to be sarcastic or would I rather be genuine? It's so much easier to go to the direction, the more loving direction, and set aside that angry culture. Move toward that other direction. I still have those moments. And what's really helped me, I'm Christian, and what really has helped me is something that happened at the Last Supper. Jesus said that one of you is going to betray me. And one by one, all the disciples went to Jesus and said, Lord, is it I? And as I say that daily, Lord, is it I?
Repeat that.
Lord, is it I? So is it me? So,
Yep.
all the disciples were asking, is it me? Am I the one that's going to betray you? And so when I do that self-introspection, just asking myself that question about relationships, is it me that's causing this problem in this particular relationship? As I do that introspection, I'm able to define what is it that I'm doing? What would be the opposite? What attribute, what characteristic do I want in my life? And then go for that characteristic and develop that characteristic. Because I found a lot of attributes of that angry culture were in my life. The only way to get rid of it is to find out what's the opposite and then try to develop what the opposite is so that you have a better life. Now I feel like I'm more on the loving side of the spectrum rather than still on that angry side of the spectrum.
Wow, that sounds like really profound as well, because the thoughts that changed, your perceptions changed, and you've turned inwards, so you've got more self-awareness as well. So that's great advice for people too, because if you're constantly angry at people or annoyed, ask yourself, is it me? And how to handle
Yeah.
it. So I love it how you've changed your whole perspective and learnt from the past histories, because healing is continuous learning. Like if you have a traumatic childhood, I've had a traumatic childhood, I know many people, and it's just constantly being self-aware of it and constantly trying to heal. And the thoughts that go in your head, you must have had some great thoughts that have impacted and changed you. Can you give any advice on what we should be telling ourselves if we're facing anger issues or a traumatic childhood? You do the dice every day, but you're obviously telling yourself things which are empowering you as well. So do you have any advice for that and how others can do that as well?
In that destination dating that I mentioned, I was looking for love in a lot of different places, looking for love. Instead, I think that the phrase should be looking to love, looking for opportunities to send love out. And really, there's a great song from The Sound of Music where Rolf, who's the delivery guy, riding the bicycle around making all these deliveries, and he's singing a song to the oldest Von Trapp daughter. And she's on the second story, he's on the ground, and he sings this song. Part of the lyrics of that song said, "Love in the heart wasn't put there to stay. Love isn't love till it's given away." And really, if we're sitting around waiting for love to come to us, we're going to wait a very long time, and we're going to really get quite bitter about it, just waiting for love to come our way. This cube is something that helps us get out of that and go find someone that may be a little bit lower than you are, just a little bit more depressed than you might be, a little bit less fortunate than you might be, and lift them up. While you're lifting them up, you get rewarded. You get that satisfaction that you made somebody's day. And when that happens, you get a payday. You're giving this love out without any expectation of it ever coming back. But you're trusting the universal laws, the law of the harvest, the law of karma, the law of attraction, the law of reciprocity, the law of polarity. Any of those laws will bring that love right back, or bring it back over a period of time. You're not going to know when it's going to come back, but it'll come back. But you have to plant those seeds. I feel like Johnny Appleseed, walking the earth, planting seeds instead of apple trees, planting seeds of love. By doing that, though, someday there's going to be a harvest. Someday it's going to come back. That's really kind of how this really comes back to you. This is how it changes you within. This is really how you're going to improve your life and improve your business as well. You know, I've had a person, just a friend that took a job at Walmart. He's actually just turned 80 years old. Took a job at Walmart, and he's doing a lot of things, very active, he's very healthy. And while he's in Walmart, or before he goes to Walmart, he is rolling the cube every single day. Customers are amazed how kind he is to them, and they're always asking, "Where's John? I want to talk to John." And then now the employees are seeing that, and John can answer their questions now. They're saying, "Where's John?" Now the managers are seeing it, and they're saying, "What are you doing, John? How come everybody's asking for you? Why are the customers asking you for? Why are the employees asking for you? What are you doing, John, that we can help do as well?" So it starts from the bottom up, or it can come from the top down. Either way, you can get this into a business and help people feel good about being loved. Just kindness, gentleness, just be decent.
Beautiful. It sounds like I should get one of those dices, have it in my pocket at all times, because it's easy to forget, you know, like sometimes we have a frustrating day, but to give, it sounds great. And we all want to be someone that is magnetic. There's some people in the world that has a positive and happy. I'm attracted to those type of people. You want to be around those type of people, and that's probably why that John character, because he's always positive, smiling and helping others, and creates a magnetic personality, which we need more of that in the world.
So, I love the magnetic word that you use too, because I really think that's what it is. What I found for me when I was angry is that I would repel people. I would be like that guy in the swimming pool that had an accident. Everybody's running away. It wasn't me, it wasn't me, it wasn't me. And here you are, you're all alone. You repel people. I didn't want to be that guy. I wanted to be that magnetic guy that drew people to. People wanted to come talk to me because they knew they could get love. They knew they would be kind. They wouldn't be scolded. They wouldn't be put down. They knew they could be loved, and that's why people are attracted that way.
Yeah, that's true. So just remember that, guys. Anger does repel people, and love attracts people.
It does.
So it's simple, but it's profound. Let's talk about entrepreneurship and business. Can you talk about any practices or strategies that have worked best for you when you're facing tough situations as an entrepreneur?
That's a great question, Linda. And I think that this really is very helpful when you're trying to negotiate anything. This works in negotiation. If you can identify just by talking to the person what their love language might be. And again, we're watching for when they light up. When people light up, when you do something kind to them, you can identify that as their primary or maybe a secondary love language. If you can incorporate that into the negotiations, you're going to get possibly what you want, and you're going to have understanding of what they want too, because that's going to be their love language. Transfer that to the sales team. If the sales team can identify what the customers are wanting, what their love language is, and be able to deliver that with the product or with the services that you're delivering, they're going to possibly buy even more than what they originally thought to buy because they feel that they've been heard. They feel that they can be seen, that someone understands them. And if a salesman can understand that customer, it increases the value of that salesperson as well. Just think that most people are a little bit myopic, Linda. What I mean by that is that, according to Dr. Chapman, and I agree, that they'll give away their love language, what they like, in hopes that it's coming back. That's called reciprocity. That's not love. That's a transaction because you're giving something to get something back. Remember, love is giving it away without any expectation of it coming back. It's quite different. So we don't want to do the transactions. In business, you'll have transactions, but you want to have those transactions based on love, that they really like their salesman because the salesman sees them, understands their needs, and can deliver that by the love language and understand by that love language. Giving all 5 love languages away gives them that knowledge to see it when it comes their way. Likewise, that salesman seeing that customer and possibly identifying better, having at least the communication tools to identify what their love language is going to make that sale go a lot better. Now put it into customer service. That calling customer service, they all have problems. Even over the phone, you'll be able to see or hear what their problem is and be able to help them solve the problem and do it in a loving way. If it goes throughout the company like that, everybody's going to be calling for John. You're going to have 10 Johns in your company or 15 or 20. I mean, you're going to have those people that know their stuff and know how to express love in that way. They're always going to call, and your company is going to help the self-esteem of that salesperson, or it's going to help the self-esteem of that customer service person to be the go-to person. They're going to want to be that person. It's not going to be the ladder climbing that and the hostilities that happen normally within a corporate situation. It's going to be lovingly reaching a level that now you're going to be tapped to go into management because you recognize how loving it needs to be, even for the employees, employee to employee, manager to manager, and employee to manager. All those relationships need to have love within them.
So let's quickly go back a second. How does one find out what the other person's love language is, especially like in business or even in personal life? How do you find out? Do you just ask them, or it takes time to find out, wait for them to tell you? Sometimes we don't have the time. How do we know? If it's in the professional world, how do we know what their love language is? How do we find out?
Sometimes it's BD on a customer service. You may not be able to detect it, but you have to have the skills to be able to detect it first. And so that's what I'm talking about right now, that if you have the skills and are prepared yourself, it's going to be easier to detect what their love language is. Just to guess isn't going to work. And that's the problem that I had with Dr. Chapman's, because that was all guesswork. This is going to make it easy. You develop the skills. While I was single, I created this, so I needed those skills to improve the quality of a person that I was so that I could have better relationships after that. So it is with these customer service, so it is with the salespeople. Develop those skills first, then they'll be able to more easily detect. It may not be very easy sometimes, but they'll have the skills to be able to detect what that customer needs and what their love language might be so that you could deliver it within their own love language and they'll be happy.
Beautiful. Do you have any books or podcasts that have helped you grow and succeed that you can recommend?
I have 8 children, Linda, so I really have loved children's books. And one of the best children's book series for me is called Frog and Toad. And Frog and Toad, they're friends, and they do all these things together. For example, one time Frog created a to-do list, just very similar to what you would do in your business or your daily planner. They're all stories that are great for children, but fabulous for adults too. So Frog has his list, to-do list, and then he's walking to his friend's house, and the list flies out of his hand, and he loses the list. And he sits down there and says, he starts crying because he forgot what he's supposed to do next. He didn't have his to-do list, so he can't do anything. And I think that we get paralyzed a lot in that way, that we think that something bad happened. Now, what am I going to do? And you get paralyzed in that moment. And it's just fun stories like that with Frog and Toad. So I think that just as simple as it is, just simple concepts, adult theme in a children's book that has really helped me identify with little problems and make those problems smaller, sometimes smaller than they are, but manageable so that you can solve the big problems in life.
Very good advice. Yeah, I myself personally love children's books like every night. Like I could pick up the books from my daughter. We borrow like 30 books every 2 weeks, and it's just a little fairy tale. All the stories in the kids' books are quite interesting, and it's great for them to develop and learn as well, but it's also great for adults as well. Do you have any advice for others seeking to find their passion and purpose, both professionally and personally? It sounds like you've created something that your company now is something that's it's personal, but it fulfills you and you've made an impact to the world. So what advice would you give to others to find their passion and purpose?
That's a great question, Linda. And probably the best advice I would give to anybody that would be seeking is to find out what your passion is. And if they've got a passion, at least in the United States, I'm not sure about Australia, there in the United States, there are a lot of places that you can go to have advice. They have what's called SCORE. It's a Service Corps of Retired Executives. And so these are retired executives, similar to myself, that will help somebody along the way. They'll be kind of a sounding board for that idea and help them refine that idea. There's a small business development center at the college here in town where I live that I went to, and I would just use this advice of these people to bounce ideas off of them and just feel good about the path that I was taking. And they'd be very encouraging, and they might have a few ideas for me that I hadn't thought about. Another idea is I found that as I use AI, put a question into AI, something that I've been thinking about, something that I have a lot of information on myself, I'll put the question into AI, ask them what they think about it. And AI
Mm,
comes up with probably 3 or 5 suggestions that I hadn't even thought of. And then I
mm,
can also consider that and write about that. So AI is a great help right now in that way. I wouldn't use it straight out of AI because you're going to have to refine it yourself, put it into your own words, and really make it yours. The other thing is, I wait for inspiration. So if I have a question, I chew on it for a little bit and watch for solutions, and the solution will come. If you put the question out to the universe, the solution is going to be there. You just don't know when it's going to come. When it comes, be ready on the notepad in your phone or on a regular notepad, any way that you can write that answer down, because it comes in a flash and it'll come and it'll go right by you if you don't write
mm,
it down. You'll forget. What was that great idea? And so, what
mm,
I would suggest is keep a notebook with you or keep your notepad open on your phone so that you can write these ideas as they come. I started out on the cube. My first prototype was 2.5 inches by 2.5 inches, a block of wood. At first, the edges were really sharp, and if I rolled it, it would clunk, and I could almost say, well, I want physical touch today. I'm going to roll it this way, and it'd come up with physical touch. So it was kind of like a weighted dice that it would come up with whatever I wanted. So it was really clunky. It didn't work. So what I had to do is bevel off the edges on every side and the corners so that it would roll, number one. And secondly, I'm doing all this while my artwork is in process. It took 2 years to perfect the artwork for the die itself. So while you're in process, get that prototype going and start working with it, prove the theory. And as you're proving the theory, then you'll be able to see that your vision of what you expect to accomplish, your passion, that vision is worthwhile and it's worth pursuing, is something that could make you money. That's really can't be the end result, though. You have to work it so that it can make money, but the passion has to be there, that you want to send love out to the whole world. And whatever it takes to get that out to the whole world, you've got some tools that people can have to be more loving. And those are the products that you have. But the passion and the motivation, that's what you've got to have that passion for. If it's just money, you might as well just close up shop right now. It's not going to happen.
that's true. So, talking about motivation, what motivates you daily and how do you maintain that drive consistently?
There are a lot of people that are hurting. There is pain in every household. And if there's any way that I can relieve a little pain here and there, I'm just myself. I mean, there's just so much that I can do in a day. But if I can help people be trained how to relieve pain, I've got to do it and I can't stop. I've had pain in my own household for so many years, and I've had so much anger in my household for so many years. I've got a lot of catching up to send love out. So that keeps me motivated.
Oh, that's very, very beautiful. Now, as someone that's into personal growth and development, what daily habits or routines do you do daily that help you lead to your ongoing success?
So daily habits that I have, every podcast I have, I brush my teeth before the podcast. Even though it's virtual, might sound silly, but I brush my teeth before the podcast just because I want to be able to have that fresh mouth, to be able to feel good about myself. So keeping up on hygiene habits obviously is a great daily habit that you need to have. If you're going to be presenting or talking to anybody, make sure you're brushing your teeth. It would look funny if I had spinach or something in my teeth and I'm trying to be on a podcast. It
Mm.
would just work so well. Rolling the die is just something that takes 2 seconds. The type of things that I do daily, Linda, I love investments that you make, that you put a tiny bit in, you get a lot back. And so the die is one of those things. 2 seconds to roll the die, but it really sets the theme or the purpose for the whole day. It's only pictures, and pictures kind of burn into your mind. So things like that will be a memory hook for what am I doing today? What is my purpose today? And keep that purpose in mind, top of mind all day long. If somebody pulls in front of you while you're driving, you can't even go there. You just slow down and just keep on your purpose. And you'll get to that point that it'll be natural. Some of these love languages will not be natural by sending it out because you like one thing that you like. When you send it out, though, and you'll get used to sending it out in all flavors. By doing that, that's going to broaden your purpose, broaden the things that you can do, broaden your skill set. And I think broadening your skill set is going to motivate you as well. It's going to help you be more loving, be more kind. That's going to motivate you. That's going to be a daily habit for you to just be loving to everybody, everybody. I think that habit alone, be having a loving habit all by itself, is just going to bless your life in ways that you never imagined.
Wow, that's beautiful. And while you were talking, I was just thinking, gosh, even kids would benefit from this. Like, you should have a kids version of it as a suggestion so that they could have it as a toy. Do you know what I mean? I'm thinking my daughter, she's only 5, but she's very alert and she knows when someone's angry. She's very self aware. I think she might be an empath, who knows? But as a 5-year old, if she had a little dice and could do these actions towards her brother or her friends, I think that would be really beneficial and a maybe simplified way for kids to understand it as well because they learn. And I want to buy these dices myself, but yeah, it'd be great even for kids because we need more of this. We need more love in the world, you know? So,
That's a great suggestion, Linda. And I actually am trying to get this in the school system. And
ooh,
kindergarten in the United States is for the 5-year-olds. So they start K through 6 is what I'm testing it with right now. And so what happens is that the teacher or a student would roll the die at the beginning of the day, and then the teacher would say for 30 or 45 seconds, class, this is the type of behavior we're looking for this day. It helps that there's no words on this, so even young children can understand what does that symbol mean. So the teachers say in class are watching for this day. What I'm having the classrooms do also is at the end of the day, they record what they rolled, opportunities they saw to love in that way, what they did about those opportunities. So now these 5-year-olds and 6-year-olds and 7-year-olds, they're becoming responsible for their own actions. They don't have to wait like I did until age 35 to realize, oh, you mean I'm responsible for my own stuff? Yeah, you are. At the end of that day, they have to report on it. And how did they love? And what did they do about that love? So what you've got now is that you've got that journal keeping, you've got that reporting that they have to do. They're accountable. The parents, when they receive, the teacher will do a check mark and send the paper the journal entry home. Those parents will keep that journal in chronological order. Now, after first grade, you have a journal for your first grader. After third grade, you've got a journal for your third grader, and so forth. I would have loved to have the journal like that for my own childhood. I lovingly remember my first grade teacher, Mrs. Rogers. I don't remember my second grade teacher, third, fourth, or fifth. I do remember my sixth grade teacher. But I would have loved to have a journal from that time period. What was it as a child did I love? What was it about class? What was it about Mrs. Rogers that I loved so much that I remember her name all these years later? And she was very old. She was probably in her 60s. That's very old now. But she was very, very old to me as a 6-year-old, as a teacher, and she was probably ready to retire. But I just remember it was kind of a grandma type feel that I had in that classroom, and it was very loving. I wish I would have more details about it, but that's all I remember. This is an opportunity to provide those details. In addition to that, I tested this cube with a family of 5 children. The youngest was 4 years old. One day he rolled physical touch, and he's jumping up and down, pumping his fists and saying, "Yes, physical touch, physical touch." And immediately he goes and beats up on his brothers. He thought that was permission for him to start beating on his brother. So the mother's trying to suppress all this laughter, Linda, and trying to say, "No, son, this high five or a fist bump or a pat on the back or even a hug would be appropriate physical touch." And it became a teaching moment for that child. Apparently, his older brothers beat up on him. He thought that they were loving on him, just like I did when I was growing up. The mother had an opportunity teaching moment to change that perception.
Beautiful story.
Works very well with children.
I can imagine how beneficial it would be for adults and children as well. So we're running out of time. I just wanted to say thank you so much for this chat. It's been very profound and very inspiring too. And I wish you all the best on your journey. Finally, where can people find you and follow you?
The best place to find me is my website. It's called rolloflove.com, ROLE of love.com. Did a play on words, you ROLL, the cube outside of you. The change that you're looking for within is ROLE, rolloflove.com. Or for people that are in Australia or in other places around the world, they can go on Amazon actually and get the book and the journal. Unfortunately, I don't have the cube on Amazon. You'll have to go on my website. But on Amazon, if you'll type in my name, Paul Zolman, there's an Audible version. There's also a Kindle version, or you can get the paperback version for the journal or the book.
Thank you. Thank you so much for your time, and all the best with this Roll of Love and the Dice.